Welcome to the 488th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. And the reason why I'm laughing is because my registered dietitian is staring funny at me. But no, welcome and thanks for listening. Now she's laughing. So I have been threatening to have my strength coach on the podcast for some time, and I've managed to score a little time slot here. So we're going to talk about some strength and conditioning and what we might be planning to offer in the future as far as the program goes. But I wanted to talk a little bit on the podcast because I talk about doing my strength work and Nathan giving me workouts. And I also talk to members who go to the gym and they'll say they go through the machines and I'll say, how many do you do? And they say, we do 3 times 15 reps. And I don't even have to wait any time and I can do them again. Or I just do the machines I like, or sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that. And so there's a big variation in what people want to get out of strength training and what they actually get out. And I'm guilty as well, as, kind of going through the motions in the past. People will come and say often, I gained muscle. I'm not losing weight, but I'm gaining muscle. And is that a thing? How long does it take to get strong? And can you get strong at any age? So I figured, why not have the expert on to answer these questions? And so I'd like to welcome Nathan Majnaric to the podcast. Nathan is a lifelong athlete. He was a football fullback at West Virginia University. He then went on, finished his degree in athletic coaching and education. He has a minor in strength and conditioning and exercise physiology. He went to Mississippi State, where he was in the strength department coaching basketball, and while there, got his master's in sport. He'll have to help me. What is it?
Pedagogy.
Pedagogy. And that could only go bad. And then he went to Georgia State as a basketball strength coach for the women's team. And men's team. Then he also went to Houston, University of Houston, where he was a strength coach for the football team. Some of his specialties include rehab. He talks about Muscle Beach, and we can talk about that, where he takes athletes that are injured and brings them back. He also has placed Mom or Dr. Dulaney at Muscle Beach numerous times. He's placed his father on Muscle Beach and brought him back from injuries. And so he's done some training with baseball, and certainly works as doing personal fitness and group classes as well. So his background is very diverse. And I think that he encompasses well more than our population here, but also has a lot to offer as far as health and wellness in a general population, from weekend warrior all the way down up to someone that's trying to get fit to live their best life in retirement. So with that giant introduction, welcome, Nathan.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
I thought you
welcome,
were
Addie. Yes, Addie,
Yeah.
You are here in the background.
Yes,
And
I am here. I am here, folks. No, I thought you were going to say specializes in putting up with my daughter, but
Well, there is that. But I'm going to start with Addie. Actually, we'll start with a little nutrition, because I would like to ask you, how do you actually feed a strength coach?
And that is what he often gets, is like, you're vegan, you're plant-based at work, is kind of the thing when people find out in disbelief, because often, Nate would pack his lunch, or I would send him with, food that we'd had leftovers the night before. We'd make lunches and send them in versus getting food at work. One, because most of the time options are limited for plant-based, especially if you're looking to, he not only coaches, he participates in athletics still. So Nate's does jujitsu as well as powerlifting, and then is always testing programs on himself and different things he sees. So he's quite athletic, and especially in the strength department of things. So, he can't just live off of salads with a few black beans sprinkled on top. So we focus on nutrient density as well as caloric density. Just like me, Nathan doesn't have the greatest family history. So when I make our meals, I'm keeping that mindset of, okay, yes, we're just in our 30s now, but we both have strong family history for heart disease, diabetes, dementia. We got the whole ball of wax here. So I look for caloric density, but with nutrient dense preface. So we're not doing high fat to get his calories, but I am incorporating good amounts of protein from anything from beans, lentils, tofu, quinoa. Do a lot of potatoes. Luckily, he's a Midwest boy, so that doesn't bother him one bit. I think he would live on them if he had the choice. We definitely get the greens in. We get the fruits, the veggies. Being a strength coach, there's not a lot of sleep involved with that. So I try to push as much antioxidants and omega-3s on him as I can to keep his immune system functioning well and help him recover. He takes care of the hydration. You did some smoothies and things at work. But he leaves the house at ungodly hours in the morning. And so he takes his breakfast with him too, which is usually a large bowl of overnight oats with soy milk is my plant-based protein preference for milk, and chia seeds and lots of blueberries and bananas and cinnamon, things like that. We'll mix up the ingredients a little bit here and there. And then packs a lunch with, my grain or potato plant-based protein source and some colorful vegetables and fruit involved. But really, we don't do anything necessarily different for Nathan than what I would make for myself or for Caleb for that matter. It's just the quantity is much greater. And that's the big approach I take and took when I was with college athletics for my internship too. And what a lot of people don't understand is, if you just increase your overall calories, you're going to naturally increase your protein too. So, I mean, I'm a little more specific with it than that, but the long story short, if you increase your calories, if your calorie output increases and you increase a balanced diet, you will be increasing your protein. So that's kind of the approach I take with him. We may occasionally do some supplements, depending on what season we're in, if he's, on the road or training for certain events, has a competition coming up, or he cycles through 2 times a year where he tries to max effort his deadlift and squat. We may do a little bit more with protein supplementation just to hit those higher numbers to help him with recovery. And he's dabbled with a little bit with creatine in terms of his family history with dementia, as well as some training cycles with really clean sources. But most of the time it's just whole foods. We keep it simple. We keep our family meals at home. We don't eat out a tremendous amount so that we can get the best bang for our buck and keep the crud out and go from there.
So Nathan, I know when you and Addie met, you weren't plant-based. And so when she started doing the
Far
cooking,
from it, folks, far from it.
right,
I would stop
but
at
you like to
Sheetz
eat.
bring
And
sandwiches.
I do have to say that I have seen the toolbox size lunchbox that you carry, and there is quite a quantity. And I have looked for leftovers in the refrigerator the next day and not really found many. So I will attest to the volumes that are put out at the Majnaric household. But how do you think, since you've changed to a plant-based nutrition, do you see any change in your strength, your recovery, your health in general, or notice anything?
Well, I guess I started off because I was like, no, I cannot go plant-based. So, but when I was a GA at Mississippi State,
Before I was his cook.
before, so, and yeah, you weren't cooking for me then. I was just there. But so I ate really good, but I also was done playing. So I ate, since I ate all the food that you actually could, and I got up to 250 and went, hey, I was lifting, but this is not a good deal. And so then started me thinking about, okay, maybe I should try this plant-based thing, and just the influence from you and Addie. And then so I said, okay, I'll go like 60-40. And so it started there, like started working way down. I went like 70-30, 80-20. And then because I kept feeling better, and I went all the way, and where I kind of had meals I could make, which became very simple. But
When you were on a GA budget too, so I mean, he
Yeah.
was literally doing frozen veggies, canned beans, potatoes, spinach,
rice.
and rice, but
So,
the volume was there.
yeah,
And you lost weight, and your lab work greatly
yeah.
improved.
Lab workout. I felt better. I lost. Now, what I did say was, okay. I like in my mind. I don't know if I said it, but in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this plant-based thing. If I get weaker, I'm done. Done. We're going to eat meat. I'm good. And then actually, I've my joints started feeling better. I know I recovered a little faster. Now I know that. I mean, for me, it's been I recovered better, and my lab work got a ton better, and I leaned out, and all my lifts went up, and I'm stronger now than
Ever.
I was. So
Yeah, well, you have had lifetime PRs every year.
Yeah, what are those? What are those deadlifts and squats? Let's hear that number.
right now the squat is at 5. Squat and deadlift are at 545.
That's 545 pounds, by the way.
Ounces. No.
Yes.
Plus a big day.
So you plus 545 pounds both the directions. Yes.
Yeah, has been then I've picked up jujitsu along the way, and
Blue belt now.
that's been awesome. It's a great journey. But just all that involved, I think I would just physiological because people have different strengths. I like how you said I was athletic. I don't know if I'm really been that athletic. I've just been more of a tugboat. I've never been the fastest or even the biggest or most explosive, but I know that I've been able to just handle a lot of work capacity, and I think that's somewhat increased with being on a plant-based diet, just the recovery in that, and just also too, I can go kind of being nice. I can go eat, and I'm not tired right after, and I'm usually like scarfing down food, then going into a training session. Or I'm training myself to fit in the day, and then so you're not really that heavy feeling afterwards. Just kind of go. So if that makes
Very
sense.
cool. I like that tugboat. So, I describe myself as a diesel. You're a tugboat. Addie, what do you want to be?
I'm sure you both will come up with something for me.
Oh,
She's a little rabbit, I tell you. Yeah. Anyway, so
rabbit wanted to.
rabbit, yes. So you're a strength coach, and of course you're at you were at a university. That's where your love is and your forte is. But you have these letters: SCCC, CSCS.
Yeah.
When people go to a gym, there's a N. There's one that starts with an N. There's
It's
all
NASM, which I think is.
So how do if you're going to some place, how do you know like what's
What qualifications are?
what are these letters? And
Well, so with those two, those are for my field would be the top. The SCCC would be the top. Is supposed to be the creme of the creme.
And what is that?
So it's the strength and conditioning collegiate coach.
Okay. So college is in there. So
Yeah, but it's through the CSCCA, which is the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coach Association. But with that, there's an internship curriculum too. So you have to have this undergrad schooling in it. You have to have an internship of, I think it's at 300 hours now underneath an accredited coach. So you're learning there, and then you go to the conference and you take a test, a written exam, then you do the practical portion to where you send in a program, you're grilled on the program, you have to demonstrate. So there's more of a fine-tooth process. With through the NSCA is the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Specialist. With that, you have to have an undergrad. They've moved it now to where you have to have a certain degree, or it's going there by I think 2030. Used to be you just had to have a college degree, and then you're able to take the test. As long as you know the material, you're good. There really wasn't an internship. But But those have been the two big ones in my field that have kind of battled back and forth. People getting diagnosed on both sides. It's but that's your gate to get in the door. Now, with that, as you know, even with doctors and anything else, once you get the nut, then you still have to keep developing yourself. That's just basically you got you in the door. So even every other certification, if they have something behind their name, or because I know there's like a personal training. If I said someone didn't come a collegiate side, but they came in just the personal training world, there is a equal to that. I think is NSSM or even the NSCA has a personal training certification. So if they have something, there's at least some knowledge base. Then you got to see how they train and how they deal with people. Because with anything, you can see how do they apply it, or what are they really in it, or how they just kind of got the certification installed out and do the same thing with everybody. So it's a broad question. That ideally, if they have those certifications, they know what they're doing. But that gets you there. If they don't have anything after their name, or they don't have any background in it, or they're just like the TikTok trainer, then that's when you get into an issue. If you're just doing they just look at TikTok and go, "Hey, that looks good. Let's have you try it." Then that's probably not good.
But
Or like someone I had a call with.
But Instagram's okay, right?
No,
Or they're like someone I had just this morning. One of our clients, their trainer said they should be getting, or they heard like over 300 grams of protein or something. And I'm like, one, how? And two, nutrition really isn't the forte.
Yes, and that comes, so we know that strength training is so we could eat the perfect diet and still we're going to lose muscle mass and we're going to fade away. It's good to eat a perfect diet, but if you don't move, we start losing muscle mass at age 30. So, and we know that dementia is pushed away if people are strong, especially squats and deadlifts, increase brain power, but just falls, risk, everything else. Chores of daily living, if you retain muscle mass, you're more apt to live independently well into your 80s. So, I remember one time being at the gym and thinking, when can I stop this? When do I have enough muscle that I can ride off into the future and not really have to do strength training? I'll just go run or something like that. Or how much do I have, me in the past in some of my strength training workouts, I go up into my exercise room and spin around my weights a little bit, lift this, do this. And so first of all, how many times a week, or what would be the ideal for, let's just generalize, a 40 to 50-year-old? How many times a week should they do some sort of strength training? Let's say they have an office job. And so, they're not a big physical laborer of sorts.
Yeah. Well, if you have you need to move every day, so at least get out and walk, because sitting is death, basically, if you're sitting all day. When it comes to the times a week, or how many times a week you go, it's funny at this point. Everything depends. So really, first is what will you commit to and be able to fit in your schedule everywhere. If you being not having like times where you go 4 or 5 days and then you don't go for 2 weeks and 4 or 5 days, that's not good. So really start off with what can we actually put on the schedule, know that I will be able to do this and get it done. I would
Honestly.
Say,
honestly.
Yes, honestly, not just, I think I can. So if I mean, there's programs all over the place, especially at their training age. So meaning if they haven't done, if their training age is 0, where they haven't trained at all, they might see results from doing it starting off at 1 time a week. Ideally, you'd want 2 times, especially a 3, but if there's movement around, 2 times can get it done, can get what you need to done. I always just like 3, because then there's the idea of the metabolic rate and having that stimulus spread out through the week. And then you get to the weekend, so you don't have these long periods of 5 days of doing nothing. Because usually if you don't go to the gym, people are moving outside of that, then that's when you can play with it. So it's 1, what you can commit to. 2, what can you recover from? If they can only handle 1 day a week and they're sore the entire week from the one where they can't move, then maybe we need to work on 1, take the volume down that first one and get to where they can come back and do the next day. But I would like 2 to 3 total bodies, but then also you'd want So you have to work both sides of it because you can't just be all strength and no, and you got condition too. There's energy system you got to train, and there's muscular system you got to train. So you have to train both. So whether that's 2 days of total bodies and at least 1 day of the energy system training, it just depends. It really, I mean, long-winded, it depends what is possible with that person. That's why there can be blanket plans, and you can have, but I would say ideally at least 2 days of lifting and 1 to 2 days of you're getting a sweat in or like heart rate going up.
Mhm.
Just to start off. And then from there, hopefully you create a general base that you can do something every day. Something. Doesn't always have to be strength.
So you're a power lifter and
Mhm.
you're very strong.
Mhm.
You also have pretty big muscles. And then there's a bodybuilder guy that can be very muscular, but not necessarily all that strong.
Mhm.
And then you can have a gymnast,
Mhm.
Simone Biles. She probably can't deadlift 500 pounds, but nobody would doubt that she's not very strong.
Yeah.
So for the average Joe or Jane, what defines strong for me and hyper. Let's get some of those words out. Strength versus hypertrophy versus bigness. Everybody's like, women are afraid to get too big, some
Yeah.
women, and guys are afraid to not be big enough.
Yeah. With that, so hypertrophy is just going to be a fancy word for increasing muscle size, and there's multiple ways to do that. On the bodybuilding side, they will go more lighter weight but higher rep volume. So they'll increase the size of the muscle through their why am I blanking on the term? That'd be the sarco or yeah, the myofibrillary. So sorry. Yeah, but there's so like on the sorry, I'll go to the powerlifting side, the muscle's more dense. So they're gonna get bigger, but it's gonna be more myofibrillary density. So there's more actual like the myosin and actin connecting, is there gonna be more connections there, and it's just gonna be a denser tissue to where there's a lot of go in that. Now the bodybuilders, you will still get there's some strong bodybuilders out there relatively, but if you're looking at like the top bodybuilder or the top power lifter, they look completely different. And you would think the bodybuilder would be stronger, but the powerlifter's stronger, even though he doesn't look it. He's just more of a dense kind of deal. And what they've trained more in the plane of we're going to make more function. Where you brought down the bodybuilder is going to train the different. They're trying to basically sculpt their body, but they've created the size of the muscle bigger, so it's more just the I can't. I'm sorry. I'm blanking
So
on
the
name.
myofibers are larger, but there's less connection.
There's less connection, but it's more that they increase the size. So you increase the size of the muscle, the density of the muscle. It's just and more in that sense and what's been trained. So with that.
And how about mitochondria? Is there a difference between how many mitochondria you have in say a bodybuilder versus a power lifter? Is there any data on that?
I believe that I don't know. I can't say for sure, but if you're doing higher reps and more endurance side, there's going to be a little more mitochondria density there. Which everyone should have an aerobic base. That's going to be the base for everyone. So even with your top your top explosive sport athletes, if you can't, that's going to help recovery. So that's why you need some kind of. And now it doesn't have to be just running. It can be, but there has to be something where you work that energy system to create that base. From there. Yeah. So you can look at powerlifters. That's the reason that I kind of powerlifted, but then found a way to still stay athletic because I didn't want to be the powerlifter that, hey, yeah, I can squat a lot of weight, but I walk 5 steps or do the 5 stairs and my face is red and I'm huffing and puffing. There's that side of it too, because you specialize so far into one sport. You look at some of the top ones, that's where they kind of got to because they have to. Like those guys who squat 1,000 some pounds, they get that. They need the size in order to handle that weight. Then work with the suit, and it's a whole different kind of sport.
So would a bodybuilder have more endurance because they do more reps? Depends on what it is. So if you had to walk 20 miles, you better walk 20 miles with a bodybuilder than a strength guy? It depends.
Well, it depends. If the bodybuilder's on a cut with no carbs, then I don't think the bodybuilder's going anywhere.
It's not going to get very
further. So It,
And he's
again, it
gonna be
actually
angry.
depends.
Yeah, and the bodybuilder's gonna be angry when you're
Yes.
walking. So yeah, probably not. I don't want to walk with a bodybuilder.
So really, so that's where people have gotten the problems where they've used bodybuilding to train for sport, and that always fails because it's different. You can use powerlifting. They've used powerlifting to train for sport, and in a sense, you can use some power lifting, your big lifts or some of the rep ranges that you use for that. But you also have to understand that athletes or even people, they're not going to squat. Their sport is not. They don't have to squat 1,000 pounds next week. That's not their goal. Now, the foundational movement patterns of squatting and hinging and single leg movement and all that has to be done. But and there's a reason the squat's been around forever. It works. It's the king of all exercises. It will work. Now, how you apply it to different people depends on what they have the capacity to do. And it's not everyone gets afraid of the barbell thinking, oh, we're gonna go straight there. No, we can start with a PVC pipe. And some people you can strain with that. But so in that sense, you can't, but those are sports of themselves. And I think that's where people get lost. Where there's also this other tier to where there's actually and functional trainings got used by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And it gets thrown into, okay, that's when we just use kettlebells and everything else because it's functional on the different planes of motion. You gotta combine it all. Now, like how I program, there's going to be some of the bodybuilding there because I grew up and you saw a lot of that. But that's going to be more your accessory work. There's going to be the powerlifting sense because that's how the strongest people got the strongest. But then for being able to be able to just move in life and have those awkward positions to where, if I'm picking up Caleb, it's not going to be, hey, I'm going to set my back and everything's there. That's not always going to be the issue. So you got to be able to then have the strongman side of, hey, I can push a sled, I can carry, I can be in these kind of out of a different axis of motion, because if you think you have a sagittal plane, a frontal plane, people get stuck in the sagittal plane to where we're just squatting, we're just lunging, and that's one plane of motion, but you got to go lateral, there's diagonals you got to go in, and so moving all those different ways.
Life movements.
Life movements. So
That's where the functionality, I think, comes in too, and that's why it's so important, and why we're talking about it too, is because it, just like you said, it's not just for these pockets of people. Everyone can benefit from it.
Yes, in life, to be
Right.
able to lift
Yeah.
your suitcase, to be able to get off the ground, to be able to do a sport, run 100 miles, but not get injured the next time. But I hear people talk about a hybrid athlete.
Yeah.
It's becoming more popular so you can be strong and fast, strong and have endurance as well as strength. We think about runners being skinny, scrawny people, and powerlifters being big guys, but now we're starting to see people line up at 100-mile races that look like they're lifters more than runners, but yet they run 100 miles.
Yeah, I think CrossFit did a great job of kind of bringing more of, not that there's different things. Now training for the CrossFit, the sport, not the healthiest, just because of what they do. But what it did bring through, that you don't have to be really skinny to be really you don't have to be really small to be endurance, or you don't have to be obese to lift heavy weight. That's always been there, and CrossFit did a great job branding it. But the best quote I ever got was from one of my mentors, Kevin McAdam, was, the best strength coach is the best thief. So there's nothing new underneath the sun. Like, everything's been around. So even everything and if you listen to older strength coaches or older strength athletes, the pendulum keeps swinging. But it's like kettlebells weren't in, then they were not around for a while, and now they're back. Or like everything machines were in, but then, oh, the machines aren't good, and now machines are back. It's like these dogmas happen. But it's shown, but what your body will bias and go to what it needs the most. So if you look at just watching Olympics, the distance runners, yes, a lot of them get biased into being the skinnier side, because a lot of their time is spent running, and the body's very smart that, hey, muscle is very has a high cost. So we're going to try to everything. So because of just how much calories it needs and just go for that long. So it's going to, especially your type 2 fibers. So it's going to kind of take out as much as it can, but still function. Now for them, strength training is still needed. So they're more efficient, or they can be, they're more efficient in their running, and they can have durability in it, but they will not look the same because their sport has dictated kind of them, and the amount of time they spend in their sport has dictated their body to go a certain way. So it just all depends on how you train an energy system. So if, like, again, someone who's more of a anaerobic athlete, that's going to create more of a, to where you're doing those short bouts, that's going to fade more to type 2 fibers. And so then they can have more size because they're more explosive, but they can't go as long. So your training outside of your energy system, and then how you eat, is going to kind of put you more either way. I also think there's outliers on the other side too. There, like, even if you look at, like, I know, like, women not wanting to look really bulky, and they see people that are bulky. Well, if you look at some of the sports, maybe that training didn't make them bulky, but they were more, their genetic makeup was an outlier that it made them really good for that sport. So they kind of looked that way and they gravitated toward that sport. Doesn't mean because if you train like them, you're going to look that way. But if you train some of the ways they train, would benefit for you. You can't always stay at sets of 15 because
You want to get bulky.
you're not, because you don't want to get bulky, because you won't get bulky, but you won't get stronger either. You'll get stronger to a point, and then it'll be like, well, because your body always needs a different stimulus, because it's going to find out to adjust to it and then move on.
When on average, I know you're asked this question quite a bit, but if you start a program, when do you start to see, when can someone expect to see results? So I'm going to start a training program and I'm going to be consistent and commit. When will people start to feel like, hey, I kind of notice it, not just because they can add 2.5 pounds to their barbell, but they can start to really feel it in their daily lives? How long do you think that'll take?
Well, there's a thing called newbie gains. So if you've never trained before, so your neuromuscular system will get more efficient. So you start seeing more weight on the bar really quick because you're learning a new skill. And so then that's when people see, like, they'll start with the bar and all of a sudden maybe, like, they'll jump 100 pounds in a bench press. They go, oh, wait, yeah, I keep going like this, I'm going to lift 1,000 pounds before I know it. And then it's like, nope, that's not how the body works. It's cut up. So it's usually like that first, you'll see some of those gains, like probably in the first month, just because you're learning a skill and the amount of times it's been applied. After that, I think it's going to take 3 months to you really start seeing some of the other aspects of it. I think you'll, like, especially mentally, you'll feel better right away. You'll have the accomplishment. There's going to be that dopamine hit. There's going to be just everything that gets released, the hormones that get released. They're going to help. It's going to help your mood and all that, and that side of things. Feel accomplished. You probably sleep better because you did some work, because that's what we're kind of meant to work. But I'd say 3 months is a good number where you really start seeing some of, like, either it's weight loss, or maybe because your fascial system takes 60 to 90 days to turn over. Your bones grow a different rate. Your ligaments have a different recovery rate. Your muscles have a different recovery rate. But I think you got to stay consistent for at least, that's why there's a lot of 12-week programs, because you got to stay consistent for that long. And then you start seeing, okay, this is where the base is. Then also it starts becoming a habit. And then you're off to the races from there. And then it starts fine tuning, because at first you might not change how if you're like, you might not say, okay, I'm going, and now my body kind of, because homeostasis, so your body won't stay the same. So immediately it's going to take that new response and it's going to react to it. And then it's going to try to super compensate the other way. So it's going to be training response. It dips down and goes, oh no, I don't want to be in this valley, and then super compensate. And that's how you get stronger, because you've had muscle damage, your body rebuilds. But then you start, like, you're trying to lose weight. Then at first you might have a drop off because you've added more calorie output in that sense, or how, I know the dietitian can explain all this side of it. I'm not going to go into her world. But if you stay and we stay at sets of 15 for 3 months straight, and there's no new stimulus, your body then becomes efficient at how to handle those 3x15s. So then it's not as big of a response. It's not as big of a stress on the body. And that's when you have plateaus. So that's why tracking, having a plan, and knowing kind of what you did. So when you come back to it, we can kind of change, either add, again, if it's just 2.5 pounds, then you add 2.5 pounds. If it's, hey, we did the same weight, but maybe we did a 3-count negative. Now we did a 4-count negative. That's more time under tension. So there's so many variables to mess with, but you can't stay, you're going to stalemate at a certain point if the stimulus stays the same.
So, we talk about, there's one thing that, people's grip strength. So ability to get off the floor, grip strength, is really important, to kind of overall physical well-being. You said squat is something that we all must do. Squat, you must.
So
squat
yeah,
gets us
there
out
is
of the
a
chair.
study with leg strength and longevity, and we all have to sit down and we all have to get up. And so if you're stronger than your body weight, then that's not as stressful on the heart getting up and coming down. So that was this, I forget where it was out of, but there was a study done on that. Just like the same people with leg strength, grip strength, the entire deal.
How might you increase your grip strength?
Carries, one, whether that's holding dumbbells and carrying them, or holding anything you want to find in the house and carrying it.
Yeah, we've done like the reusable grocery bags with canned goods in them for practice wellness challenges.
So you should carry your own bags from the grocery store.
That would help.
And you should carry them into your home.
Yes, so carry them. Yes, so carry them out and carry them in. I like to do. I think my grandmother used to call it poor man's load, but I try to see how many bags I can get on each hand, and try to carry them in. A lazy man's load. That's what she calls it. A lazy man's load. So you try to make one trip and you carry everything.
Always one trip. That's the goal. Always one trip. Hashtag one trip.
So, you can, so we had a step challenge that's finishing up this month. So I guess if you're trying to get your steps, you can make a bunch of trips. But the reality of it is you'd be better off going around the house into the back door, carrying all the bags at once.
Yes. Or you can do
I'm just trying to sabotage my wellness challenge, but that's fine.
I mean, anything you can grab and hold on to. It can be where you just hold there and you do marches. It can be, how long can I hold this weight? There's the pinch grip. There's hanging from a bar. If someone has the ability to do it.
When somebody says, they're doing the old squeezy ball thing, that really is not going to get you anywhere, right? Unless you just came out of the hospital and you haven't, held your pencil and, whatever. But you really, this is not going to get you. Doing this is not going to get me very far, is it?
Well, depends. So I have seen to where if you're doing like volume, but it's not going to get you forever. But you need both sides. That's the thing. You need both sides. It's a supplement. It supplements. You need, well, not both hands. Yeah, yes, both hands. But you need both ends of the continuum. You need the strength. There's going to be the strength side. There's going to be the strength. There's not going to be. So there's, again, type 2 and type 1 fibers. If you always train the one side, like how we're talking about sets of 15, you have to do like a minute or 2 minutes of squeezing, because they also have. Why are you laughing? They also have.
I wish people could see the audio or visual of this, not just the audio.
There's also these things. I think it was like Captain Crunch, not the cereal, Crush. Sorry, Captain Crush, where they have they have those things where you can squeeze. They're metal. There's a spring.
Yeah.
Do it that side. So all those work, and that does work, and doing high reps of that. But again, if you don't track it, you don't try to say, "Hey, squeeze this for 30 seconds this time." Multiple times or held, or do like an ISO squeezing. If you don't track it and you just, hey, I held it here, and there's no, with anything, if there's no intent, if there's no tracking, it's not going to do anything for you. Same thing. If you go to the gym and I sit on the machine, then I look at my phone, then I go do some reps of machine. Maybe I did 10, maybe I did 5, maybe I did 15.
Take a selfie.
Maybe the weight's there. What's the weight? Oh, hey, there. And if you do that, there's no intent to training. So really, yeah, you can say I was in the gym for 4 hours, but you did 20 minutes of work. So it doesn't matter.
Very good point.
So the time you can get stuff done, and it doesn't matter how long you're there. It matters the substance of what you did. So like I said, like I don't throw things like, again, with anybody's program or anybody doing things. I needed the context. before I throw stuff out the window. Well, now younger me was like, hey, yeah, they're dumb, but that's, or like the training was that's not right. But then I more of a got exposed to things. Everything works within reason if it's sound. Now there's things that aren't sound, like balancing on a Bosu ball and putting a weight on your back is a cool circus trick. Doesn't mean it's good to do. Like now it's cool. Some people are really strong that can do it. Like there's an Instagram guy that like stands on the ball, holds this, or there's like a bunch of bands. Yeah, cool trick. Not going to be good for training.
But I think you made a good point with the time, and that's another thing. So I think bulkiness is of concern. And then me in my motherhood era, everyone's like, well, I don't have a lot of time. I can't go to the gym for an hour. But I think we have proven sometimes you don't really necessarily approve of my lack of rest in between certain things, but you can get a lot done if you are intentional in a shorter period of time as well. So I think that's what takes people back too. It's like, oh, well, I don't have time to add these long sessions in at the gym. And it's you have to have a well-rounded plan.
Yeah.
You have to have a structured plan. But if you have a good solid plan of attack, you can get a lot done in a shorter period of time without cutting corners. So it's not saying you're just going to go in and do 2 sets of 8, but you can get a lot done. Because I mean, we have 2 small ones. Your job is crazy hours. So we don't have a tremendous amount of time, but we're getting our training in efficiently.
Yeah, like there's
Oh, and I will tell you, I'll tell you that, again, the difference between you giving me a program and me going down the list, and one, it's a balanced program, so I don't have to think about, am I pushing, am I pulling, how many of each different kind of exercise that I use. You took the thought process out for me, and you have it set up so that I can do like, legs, arms, or I can, and then, add some time for resting, but it's efficient because it's already laid out for me. And I don't go out of my house. I have a small home gym, as you both know, that I've got a barbell, a minimal rack and some free weights and some bands. And, it's certainly enough to get the job done. Or you can go, and so people can go to people go to the gym and they go through the machines. But I think what your point being is, if you just kind of same day in, go after the machine 3 times 15 and just go down the row and maybe skip some, or don't do this or don't do that. It's without plan and purpose, and you don't know what you're doing, and it becomes boring, so to speak. Yeah.
And with that, like, machines are good. Like, depending on their training age, it's like some people they're so beat up, their joint, like they don't have any strength in it, that I have to start people with machines. I want to get them to where, because in life there's no machines. You have to be able to like the balance and the movement of being able to squat.
Should be a bumper sticker.
Is huge. But sometimes they need the base. And they need I can build strength quick in a machine and almost kind of square one with throwing some movement outside, whether outside of the machine, but knowing that's where like the body weight. So I'm still practicing how to move, but in order to create the stimulus I need, I use the machine for that. So it's on both sides. But like Addie was saying, like it depends. Like if your goal is just to kind of be like for life, you need like 30, 40 minutes. Now, if you really love being in there, an hour is always, you can get everything done in an hour, but you can get everything done you need in 30 minutes. Knowing that you'll get benefit from it. But if you're like going to try to compete at something, you need more time than that. So there's been times in both of our, like whether I was getting ready for a race or I was getting ready for a jujitsu tournament or a powerlifting meet, that we would find ways to make sure like we both had those longer sessions because we needed to, in order to reach our goal that we had to do. But then that you compare that up and pare that down as need be. Because there's days it's like, hey, you got 30 minutes. Okay, I make a quick little circuit and it's no thick. You just grip and rip and go.
So, I obviously had you on because I have so much respect for what you do, and I so appreciate how you've helped me, and I really have seen great gains. And, one of the things that I like is, when I'm injure myself doing stupid things, you're willing to sit and work and get the books out and, figure out how to rehab me. And you've been spot on. You've been spot on in my training. I'm not just saying that. With the movements that I'm doing, with the running, everything is actually getting a lot better. And I want to continue it, and I'm actually starting to like it. I'm starting
Oh
Not
my
that I
God.
didn't like it before, but Addie makes fun of me
He
because
didn't.
I have fear of
Wow.
soreness. The fear of soreness, not being able to do my
Yeah.
primary sport.
Yeah.
And so you have actually programmed for me at this point how I am getting stronger. I can feel that I've done something, but I'm not incapacitated the next day as far as going out and doing my sport. It is adding on to my primary sport as opposed to detracting from it. And I think that is crucial. And because I'm so happy with all of it, and Addie, I think that you are a missing piece to our puzzle as far as how can we offer.
That was finished.
I know that Nathan and I silently were going to be Olympic coaches at one point, but that's for another podcast. But
Yeah, that's what
That's for the.
we're missing it. We don't have quite the team structured yet. But in the meantime, if I would like to be able to offer anybody that has some interest, and they can email us. They can go to our website, but they can also email Addie, ADDIE, at drdelaney.com, or myself if you have some interest in having you work with them, whether it be on a programming type of situation and or consulting. Because I think a lot of times remote coaching, I mean, it's a great way to get started. It's a great way if you know what you're doing, but sometimes people are so lost where to start that they could actually benefit from a consult. This is what I like to do. What do I actually need? I'm a golfer. I'm a pickleball player. I'm a traveler. I'm a hiker. I've have, my hips don't, my knees hurt, my hips hurt. I think, rather than just throwing, because I've had programs thrown at me before. And if you're somebody that I'm just going to follow the steps, you can get injured that way, or just quit because it hurts. So, so if someone has interest, then, we'd like to have them to reach out to us.
Yes.
And we could, help set something up for them.
Yeah, and I think we have the capacity to we've been brainstorming this. Again, meet people with where they're at, but also with what they have access to.
Yeah.
So, whether it be beginning with functional body weight movements to minimal at-home equipment, maybe some free weights and bands, to folks who want to go into a gym and have specific training goals. We're going to have options for all of that.
Yeah. And like you were saying, even with like not worried being sore with your sport off of that. So like program, like that's where having a coach or having someone to talk to, because then it's like, okay, then it's not so much that you can't lift, you just did too much volume. So like if you did 5 sets of 10, they're super like how I try if someone starting out, start off with maybe we did 5 sets of 5 and you didn't feel anything. Okay, great. And then next week, okay, 5 sets of 7. Like we built the volume up, and then you can add the weight into it, but you got to create work capacity. And that's the biggest thing I think people go into and think they need to go all out day one. Maybe if we do like 2 by 10 across the board, because that's what they have, and then eventually you get to a point you like to where I can get 4 or 5 sets like that. So, but that's where having the conversation, or even as you train, you journal it too. Like there's so many things to make sure you got to hold yourself accountable to what's going on, so you know how to react and not go, well, I lifted, I was sore, and I can never lift again.
Right. Or you have the capacity to tailor it to a person's needs. I mean, you've helped me. I mean, my predominant form of activity has been running. But I've done everything from train for speed for 10K distance to a 50K that you've helped me with. And then obviously, that's pennies compared to mom muscle over here with her 100-mile races. But, we have the capacity to adjust it. And so, so if you would like a consultation, please feel free to email. We'll be doing, some openings for one-on-one type of coaching, but then also brainstorming with just some blanket programs for folks just looking to get started that are outside of what we offer within the practice. So I'm excited. I think this will be great.
And the last thing, Addie dietitian,
Thanks.
after we work out, do we need to go and have, do we need to do anything special right when you finish working out? Do you have to have 80 grams of protein post-workout? What does, I want to get my body composition right. I mean, how, what is that piece of the
You
puzzle?
need to fuel. So that is a big thing. That it is not just protein. Now, protein is important. We just said within a practice, if you aren't a member of our practice, something that we do every month is you get at least 3 to 4 lectures from us. I do once a month, and through the summer, I did a protein series. So for the past 3 months, I have progressed from talking about what protein actually is, not just the powder on the shelf of GNC, to how can you incorporate it in a plant-based way, and also helping in a class type setting, calculating your specific needs and how to incorporate that into your daily diet. So we did that as an example for our last summer series. And so protein is important. Obviously, I find it important. I find it utilized within the plant-based world. Unfortunately, there's these camps, which are phenomenal. They have their purpose for reversing lifestyle disease with plant-based nutrition. However, what's lacking there is like, okay, we're going to reverse your heart disease and diabetes. However, you're just going to be skinny. No muscle. And it's like, that's fantastic. You're going to live long, but you're not going to be able to carry again your own groceries to your door. So, how do we eat a well-balanced diet? How do we fight that sarcopenia, that natural decline of muscle loss throughout the age? And so, if you're going to be active, you have to fuel. Yes, you're going to have some protein in there. After workouts, there's a little controversy right now if it needs to be within that half hour to 60-minute time window after a program. But throughout your day, depending on what training cycle you're in, depending on what type of activity you're doing, how much protein is going to differ, what your age is, how much protein is going to differ throughout your day. Your appetite is going to be different after a cardiovascular focus activity compared to a strength training, because your strength training activities are going to increase your metabolic rate quite more throughout the remainder of your day. So those days you might need to hit a little bit higher protein needs. But the other piece of the pie is carbs are not the devil. They're actually quite good for you, and you have to have them to move your body. Your brain needs them and your muscles need them. They are your number one fuel source. But I'm not talking about Little Debbie's and cupcakes and things like that. I'm talking about potatoes, whole grains, fruits and vegetables. Nathan's eye rolling me.
Not potato chips.
Not
right?
potato chips, or not in a past life Nathan's apple fritter addiction. It's okay. I had my own vices. I was a donut doll when I was in my younger years, but I'm talking about good quality complex carbohydrates. So that, especially for once you get into higher volumes of training, you have to fuel your body. If you're tired and unable to get through a workout, it's not because you're eating plants, it's because you're not eating enough calories. So oftentimes you hear, oh, I tried plant-based nutrition, but I was tired, I was fatigued. That's calories. That's just, you didn't put enough fuel in your car. And when the gas tank hits empty, I don't care what you put in your body, it's not going to go anywhere. So, it's important to fuel after, before, and treat your body in a balanced way. So just like I talk about balance with our plate, you have to balance out your health with strength training, with cardiovascular fitness, with your nutrition. But that doesn't mean you have to train like you're an Olympian, but there just has to be some intention. If you want a goal, there has to be intention behind it.
Perfect. Well, I do appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure. And again, I'm enjoying my workouts. I am actually on technically week 8, but week 7, because I repeated week 6 because I had the flu or whatever that crud I was. So I actually repeated week 6 to make sure I got all those workouts in. And so it's going well. I see myself ready to climb those mountains in Colorado next year. It's, that's the goal, and to be able to land on my tendons and keep them in the right places.
Yes.
Doing well. So thank you all. That was good. And look forward to hearing from everybody again. Go over to drdulaney.com, DOCTORDULANEY. Check out our website, what we have to offer. You can email Addie or I, ADDIE, or JAMI at drdulaney.com for more information. And we'd love to hear from you, because it's all about being stronger, fitter, faster, and more healthy through plants and movement. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Nathan and Addie. I think we have the ability to offer a unique opportunity. All three of us are athletes in our own way, as well as plant-based eaters. We've seen the benefits of eating plant-based, the benefits of endurance training, the benefits of strength training. And we would like to share it with other people, because I don't think just eating plants is the way to go. I just don't think that exercising is the way to go. We need to be well-rounded people to be able to have a good, long health span and health journey. And we're committed to helping people wherever you are in your stage of your health journey. So please contact us. Again, Addie, Nathan, or Jami at drdulaney.com, or visit our website at drdulaney.com. It's DOCTORDULANEY. Again, thank you so much for listening, and share it with your friends.